Hey everybody, welcome to another exciting episode of This Week in iPad. I'm your host, Lon Harris. Joining me, as always, the sartorial-inclined Jacob Birch, our resident iPad expert.
Not in a white t-shirt.
No, not. We'll talk about that in a second. Also, thrilled to have Aaron Barsky of Hemisphere Games as our guest today. He is joining us via Skype. Hemisphere Games, the company behind the amazing Osmos app game, which I think right now is the number one paid app in the App Store. Aaron, thank you so much for joining us. Okay, I might have been a Skype hiccup or whatever. Aaron, it's great to have you. And bear in mind, the audience always yells at me about not letting the guests jump in during the news segment. So if you have anything you want to say about the news, please yell it out, interrupt us, let me know, because we do want to hear from you. Because you're probably more knowledgeable than either of us, let's be honest. Combined, really, because I've not made a game for the iPad. So feel free to jump in if you have something to say.
I will do my best.
All right. Thanks a lot, Aaron, for that. I appreciate it. Here at the top of the show, also, I want to bring up something else. Last week, we got a lot of criticism from my co-host, Jacob Birch. He was in a plain white T-shirt. Sort of looked like an undershirt. I'm informed it was not an undershirt.
I don't think it was. The lighting perhaps made it appear to be. I don't think
it
it
was. Not see-through.
Yes.
I could not make out a nipple. I wouldn't have let you on the air if I could see a nipple. But anyway, so Jacob insisted that I pull up
Not until after 11.
So Jacob wanted me to pull up this blog post of classy gentlemen wearing plain white T-shirts. There's Brando, you've got James Dean, Paul Newman, I think it's Steve McQueen right there. So anyway, a long and storied tradition of hot, well-known, notable men. Gentlemen of the world, if you will, in plain white T-shirts. So I hope that will get everyone
off my back.
To back off of poor Jacob and leave his fashion choices.
I'm going to wear it again sometime. I'm going to do it.
I'm fine
challenge
with
it.
I'm okay with it. Also, here at the top of the show, I want to thank Ustream and our sponsors, Gazelle.com and Wellala. Wellala, of course, the makers of the Print Magic HD app for the iPad and the Print Magic app for the iPhone. We'll talk a little bit more about them during the show. I always do want to give them a little shout out here at the beginning. And if you want to go on Twitter and thank them profusely for us, please do. At Ustream, I believe it's at Gazelle and Wellala. They make Print Magic. Just go say you're checking them out. You appreciate them sponsoring the show. It really means a lot to us. These are our first crop of sponsors. I mean, it's a newer show. We're getting pretty nice downloads, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But it's a new show. They're taking a chance on a pretty untested property, and the iPad, a pretty untested product. So if you like what we're doing, this is really all we ask of any of you ingrates. Please go thank them. It would really mean a lot to us, and we appreciate it. And also, I do want to bring up that stat right here at the beginning. And this is, it's tough for us to get a lot of really detailed downloading and traffic numbers. Apple, for we love Apple here. But for all of their benefits, they don't really have a lot of demographic info. In fact, they don't have any. It's sort of this black box, and our data just kind of disappears in there. So it's tough to get a lot of demographics and viewer info out. But what we did, we just got some numbers. This show has been downloaded and viewed, well, maybe not viewed, downloaded 2.2 million times so far. A little bit over that, actually. This is episode 15, so that's not bad. We're set to a bit over 160,000 downloads per episode. That's awesome. We're actually leading the network right now with those numbers, and we thank you all profusely, everybody who's downloaded. And if you enjoy the show, please go onto iTunes, onto our channel. Even if you don't enjoy the show, let us know what you think. Rate the show, leave us a little comment. We really do appreciate it. And yeah, I see This Week is posted in the chat room at Ustream, at Gazelle_com, at Wellala_Inc. Go thank them for us. Say you're watching the show, you enjoy what we do. Check out their products, and we'll talk a little bit more about them later. Okay, enough of opening business. I feel like that was a long intro. Let's jump into the news. Let's start talking about some news. The first big story, I think probably the biggest story for this week, the rumor that there are going to be new iPads. Obviously, there will be new iPads at some point. It's sort of Apple's business strategy, philosophy. You release something, you wait a little bit, then you release the newer version of it. Yeah, you sort of get all the people who are the early adopters and get them to want to re-up. So it's only natural rumors would be around for what the iPad 2.0 will look like. According to a report in the DigiTimes, second-generation iPads are going to employ OLED. It stands for Organic Light Emitting Diode. I had to look that up. I apologize. I did not know that off the top of my head. and that will be their new technology as opposed to the current LED technology. And so OLED, it doesn't rely on a backlight, so it's lighter, it's thinner, and it's capable of higher contrast ratios. It has downsides. They don't last as long. They tend to be a little bit more expensive. And if you're in a really bright environment, especially if you're like out in the sun, they don't look quite as good. And that's already been a complaint about the LED iPad, that there's glare and it doesn't look so great in a really bright environment. So, up and down. It's possible these new iPads will get around some of these issues by coming in smaller models, was the other part of this rumor. They're talking about a 5.6-inch and a 7-inch OLED iPad that may be released, which actually, I thought this was interesting because it would seem to coincide with what we were talking about a few weeks ago, that Rupert Murdoch was saying, oh, eventually iPads are going to be much bigger, and then you'll be smaller ones, and they'll be disposable, and all this other stuff. So now we're talking a little bit about like different size iPads that may not be designed to last forever, that may be cheaper, but they work for a year and then you chuck them, or even less time, and then you just get a new model. So what do you think? Does this sound like just a rumor? Do you think this is naturally where it's going to go? And OLED, it seems sort of not ready for prime time as far as the technology goes. Do you think Apple's working on something amazing?
It sounds like a rumor to me. I mean, we're 6 weeks removed from the iPhone keynote, where it was sort of let out championing of the Retina display and sort of downplaying OLED. It's silly, it's not ready.
Right.
And we have Retina display, which we feel is better. For them to automatically go to OLED sort of, I think, discredits almost all of this rumor. I don't see them going OLED. Whether or not they have Retina display ready for the next iPad, I have to imagine that alongside a front-facing camera, maybe. So I don't buy it. As a multiple sizes, the only thing I could maybe see is not necessarily a smaller iPad, but maybe a bigger iPod Touch, which maybe becomes the iPad Mini or something. There's certain games that are just not really able to take it on the 3.5-inch screen. So 9 to 5 Mac was sort of speculating on that maybe there's a 5-inch sort of middle ground that's more of a gaming console coming. I don't see it for Christmas. I see the next iPad basically taking in what the iPhone 4 did, maybe adding 1 or 2 things I'm not aware of, that they cook up. But I don't see it going OLED, and I don't see them coming out with multiple sizes this early on.
How about you, Aaron? What do you think? You're looking for smaller OLED iPads?
I'm more willing to believe in OLED than a Retina display for the iPad. I mean, one of the things that if you were to make the Retina display a lot more pixels in there, so you got to have a much faster GPU, and that's going to start getting hot. People are sitting around with this thing on their lap, and no one wants to get their pants on fire, so I wonder how they would push that many pixels in a small portable device. But hey, it's all speculation right now.
It certainly is all speculation. They're not saying anything. Apple's next big announcement is like why the iPhone can't make calls. So they've got at least a couple weeks to go before the big iPad 2 announcement. But I think this leads me to another interesting question, which is what are you guys looking forward to with the next iPad? I mean, what do you think is the big feature that it's missing right now? I know a lot of people talk about cameras, which I've said on the show before, like, I don't really care about a camera. I don't really need this for like video conferencing. But what would be the stuff in iPad 2 that would get you really excited to get your hands on one?
I don't know what I'm missing in terms of hardware. After playing around with my iPhone 4 for a few weeks now, I'm greatly missing multitasking. I have it on my phone. I'm getting really used to it. And when it switched to the iPad, I can't listen to Pandora. I can't double-click and move stuff around. Stuff is in folders. But I'm going to be getting that in September-ish anyways for free.
Yes,
so,
with the OS update,
right.
yeah.
So hardware-wise, I'm sure the camera will be there. I've gone on this rant far enough. I'm with David Foster Wallace. I don't see me using it that often. And also taking, like, it makes sense for video the front facing makes a lot of sense, but a back camera, I don't see me taking
like
pictures
taking
with
pictures with your. It's like old, like Matthew Brady. Like you hold it up and you got like a little thing over here, and it seems rather clunky for taking photos. And I mean, you've got your whatever. Almost everybody's phone now. Who cares about that as a camera?
Outside of that, it's sort of where the video consoles were, 10 years ago with more RAM, faster, better, better.
Faster, better, I think.
I mean, it's already ridiculously fast, but I'm sure they can wow us again in that variety. But outside of that, I can't imagine anything, but I'm not as creative as Steve Jobs. So.
I see a USB port being shouted out in the chat room. That's something I really don't miss that much. I know, I'm not using it for that many high-powered sort of tasks, But, you know, honestly, Dropbox to me solved a ton of those. Like, I don't need the flash drives or anything. You can just move it into the cloud. And
the one thing it would be useful for, so you don't have to buy the dongle, is if you have a digital camera, you're taking a bunch of pictures, and you want to be able to edit them and play around with them on there.
But you can do that. I mean,
with the dongle.
Get a dongle, yeah.
So it would eliminate the dongle. But
Right.
other than that, I don't really miss it that much.
Aaron, from a developer standpoint, I mean, is there something I'm missing? Is there something you're desperate for with the new iPad?
Oh, I feel like a broken record here, but I'm going to say faster graphics again.
Yeah.
We compared the graphic speed of the iPad to the iPhone 3GS, and you know the iPad's way bigger. The screen is 6 times the size of the iPhone, but the graphics card was only 3 times the speed. So right now the graphics are running half the speed of the iPhone. It's they need to crank that back up, get us back to where we were for the previous product. I don't like taking a step backwards as a developer.
Yeah, well, that's interesting to hear the developer's perspective on that it needs to be. Because when you're playing the game, it seems like the games are pretty zippy, but I'm sure there's a lot more they could be doing with a lot more processing speed.
Yeah.
Kind of interesting. So let's move on. I had to mention this story. This was hilarious to me because it's a guy that I really respect and admire in a way. But a legendary Japanese animator, Hayao Miyazaki. You know him. He's the guy who did Princess Mononoke, Spirited Away, Ponyo was just out last year. Beautiful, lush Japanese animation. Maybe the most admired animator in the world right now. I would think between him and like John Lasseter would be like the 2 animators everybody looks to at the moment. So he discussed the iPad with Nepu, I think I'm pronouncing that right, the pamphlet published by Studio Ghibli, his animation house. His reaction is not positive, to say the least. He refers to the device as disgusting, and he says that the stroking gestures you use to operate the iPad resemble masturbation. The actual quote is, "It's disgusting. On trains, the number of those people doing that strange masturbation-like gesture is multiplying." So in fairness, Miyazaki is 69 years old. He definitely seems to be a nature-oriented guy as opposed to a technology, or in fact, most of the movies are about how humans are sort of trashing, the natural world. So is this just what it seems to be a case of an older guy being sort of generally out of touch with new advancements in technology, no matter his genius in sort of another medium? Or do you think that maybe there's a point, not about the masturbation thing, because I think this is not really, I don't know many people who do this to masturbate, but
Not in the right circles.
yeah. But does he have a point maybe about touchscreen being sort of a fad? I mean, I know a lot of people do have some of their complaints with touchscreen, like, well, but wherever I put my finger, I can't see, what is underneath my finger, like what I'm moving around. And it's obviously not, it doesn't have a fine touch like what a mouse would have or what you would have with other sort of inputs. And my probably number one complaint with the touchscreen, which would be the smudgy, disgusting iPad screen, which I have to clean all the time just so it doesn't look really gross. So is there something there? I mean, is touchscreen the new mode that we're all going to be using to input on all our computer devices?
I think it's just one of them, and I think in a device like this it makes a lot. I think they'll get more and more smudges and more precise, so you're not maybe more of even a hover, but something like that where it'll get better. I think it is more of just a man on a train with an onion on his belt, not exactly sure of the times. And like you said, he has always been what?
Such an obscure Simpsons reference there. Anyway.
I apologize.
That's okay.
But yeah, like you mentioned, he's always been sort of not fearful, but distrustful of technology and anything that separates people from, human interaction and interaction with nature. So it's only likely that people who would maybe be normally talking on the train have gone onto this, and he's a little upset by it.
Well, he also, I should note, he has railed against manga and how people are always reading manga on the train as well. So this may just be a complaint he has generally about the Japanese subway system, as opposed to the iPad specifically. But what do you think, Aaron? I mean, touchscreen is the future, or Miyazaki's right, it's gross and we'll all get over it in a few years? You have those two options.
I agree with the fingerprints. I spend a lot of time cleaning my iPad, wiping off the fingerprints. So a little disgusting, but I think the strange thing about touchscreens is they make the computer world smaller. We're used to controlling our little avatar inside the computer screen. Well, let me make an analogy here. Like the holodeck on Star Trek, as they were walking around in the holodeck, you're like, well, how come they don't hit the walls? Well, that's the thing with the touchscreen. As you're moving your finger around, eventually you hit the side of the edge of the touchscreen, and it's hard to explore further. Whereas more traditional gestures, it's easier to explore a larger space within it. Now, I don't notice that so much when I'm just scrolling or using the web or something because the scroll bar works very well, but when designing games, it is a little tricky to figure out how to control that interface where you don't smack into the edges of the screen.
Yeah, and Osmos actually deals with this pretty cleverly. We'll talk more about that in a sec, because I really am enjoying the game, but where you can kind of pinch to actually change the size of the playing area. I thought that's actually a pretty clever way around that very issue, which is, yeah, all the time when you're playing games, you sort of think you're hitting something and you're actually hitting the side of the iPad that's not the sensitive part. So that is another issue with touchscreens I didn't even think of. But yeah, the smudginess, it makes you look like you've got filthy hands all the time, which I don't. I keep my hands very clean, so.
I don't believe you.
You're right, I don't. Constantly making masturbatory gestures on Tokyo subways. All right, so let's move on. I want to stop briefly here and talk about our great sponsor, Wellala. They are a fantastic company. They make the Print Magic HD app for the iPad. They also have just the plain Print Magic app for the iPhone.
Taking away another reason why you would maybe want a USB.
Well, this is right. Another thing that now they've sort of figured out a way around without having a USB. I will pull up the app here. So you can see anything I have cut and pasted will just appear here. I actually cut and pasted my notes about Print Magic, so I have them in front of me. So if I wanted to print these out, I could just hit the print button right here. And you can see that it actually has it's identified every printer. You can see we have a lot of printers set up here because this is Mahalo HQ out there as well as this weekend. These are every printer we have in the building. They're all ready to go. I mean, I hit any single one that's hooked up to Wi-Fi, it would print out right there. The other great thing about it, and this is something I always like to highlight when we talk about this app, the photos, I don't even have to copy and paste. Any photo I have saved here on my iPad, I can print automatically right here from the iPad. I don't have to open anything. I don't have to copy and paste it. Here's a delightful picture I took of myself and Will. There it is. So you can see I took this photo. I didn't bring it up from anywhere. It's loaded right from my picture file. I could hit print, and this thing will print out beautifully. I mean, the colors are good. It looks rich. It's accurate. The dimensions are right. It requires absolutely no setup. It's really sort of amazing to me that it works so well, and it never requires any real sort of none of the annoying crud you'd always have to do when you're printing things out, like setting all the settings and worrying about drivers and all the other sort of software that you need to worry about when interacting with a printer. It's just very intuitive. And it works the first time. You can see some of the basic options here. You can choose how many copies. You can choose what output size you want, what font, all that basic stuff. And it's all figured out for you. It's really intuitive. And I also should mention, it works on any Epson or HP printer right away. It's set up sort of automatically. It comes ready to print on any Epson or HP. If you're using another printer, it communicates in PDL and IPP. And you have the option to enter a manual IP address. So if you just want to hook it up to your local printer, that's really easy to do. It uses port 9100 to communicate. And it works with almost every manufacturer's printer laser. So unless you have like a 10-year-old crazy printer that no one's ever heard of from like Slovakia.
Would it work with my dot matrix?
It's probably going to work with your dot. I don't want to make any promises, but that's the great thing. That leads me to my next point. If you're not sure, you do have an old Slovakian printer, and you're not positive it's going to work, they have a printer test for Print Magic app. You can go find it in the App Store. You can download it. It's free, and you can try, you can try to print. So you can make sure that you can print it once, and if it works, great, you can download it, and if it doesn't, you can tinker around with it, figure out why maybe it's not working, or get in touch with the fine folks at Wellala and figure out what the problem is. So you don't even have to invest. It's totally risk-free. You can figure out if it's going to work first. Yeah, don't mess around with disks or drivers. If it's got Wi-Fi, Print Magic will find it, and it works beautifully. We printed out 2 episodes ago, I think. You can look up that show. We actually printed out something. We'll probably do that again next week just to show everybody live, but works beautifully every time, no problem, and the pictures come out looking particularly great. So we recommend that, Print Magic HD. Go check it out in the App Store, and give it a try. It's cheap, $7. And if you like the show, that would be a great way to encourage us on to move forward, is to go support our sponsors. So let's jump in. We got a couple more news stories, and then I do want to talk about Osmos with Aaron here. He's taken the time to participate in the show. The next thing I want to talk about is this Microsoft iPad study. This I thought was really fascinating. So back in January, Microsoft CEO Steve Ballmer was demoing some Windows Slate computers at CES, and he spent like a couple minutes on them. He was very dismissive overall. He said, the tablets, slates, they're interesting, but it's not like they're big numbers compared to the total number of smart devices in the world. And even earlier this month, Ballmer was asked about the iPad, and he's like, it's just another PC. It's just like any other PC. I'm not worried about it. So he seems to have changed his tune just this week. On Monday, he discussed the new Windows 7 tablets and referred to the release of Windows 7-based slates as, quote, one of the most important things that we will do in the smart device category. And now, Microsoft is inviting iPad owners to a series of 2-hour studies on the Redmond campus to get more feedback about how people are using their iPads. And so if you go and you show up for one of these 2-hour studies, you will receive, quote, a Microsoft gratuity item, which is very mysterious. I'm wondering what they could give iPad owners that would be worth 2 hours of their time. Maybe an Xbox? I mean, what would it be?
A Ken.
A Microsoft kid. They certainly probably have a bunch of them laying around. Maybe it's a kid. That would be so amazing. So like, here you go. It's a kid. We've discontinued them, but good luck. Have a blast. So I mean, to me, this strikes me as a sort of clueless. Like, they go get some iPads and give them to your best people and see what they think. I mean, what do you need to do these kind of focus groups this late in the game? They're sort of just figuring it out. I don't know. What do you think? Am I being myopic? Is this a great idea to bring people in and get some feedback from the ground about how people are using their iPads?
I think it's probably a good idea for the wrong reason, only in that I sort of have a distrust of Microsoft to actually understand what the consumer wants as opposed to what they can sort of feed on them. But that's my long-standing...
Quicken. That's what the consumer wants.
That's my long-standing Apple fanboyism probably talking. I mean, it can't hurt. I mean, they've got a lot of... my actual guess would be a Zune. I joke about the Ken, but if they can get people using the Zune, why not? So they have some cheap products, they give them out, and what are you going to lose? At the very least, you're getting
just a little bit of credibility, basically admitting like, we don't know why people enjoy the iPad. Please come tell us.
This time,
give you a Ken.
I don't necessarily think Microsoft has the bear market on credibility, so
not so much. And I would like to say I would love to hear next week on this show from somebody who's going to go to this. They may have to sign an NDA or something, but if you're at all at liberty to talk about the experience and you actually go to one of these studies, please write me. I'm at Lons on Twitter, Lons, lon@thisweekend.com. I will put you on the show next week. I promise you. And we will talk about it.
Can we get him a Ken?
No, but I will give them an Apple gratuity item. I swear, I will give you something cool and Apple-y if you call us up, if you hit me up and let me know you went to one of these, because I am fascinated as to what I feel like. There's a good chance they're gonna get everybody in a room and Ballmer's just gonna yell at them. I think there's at least a 50% chance that's gonna be like, "What are you doing? Windows 7, Bing." Anyway, I had to mention that. One more story. I know we're taking so long on the news today. We're way behind already. I do want to mention this though. Shazam. Which is an interesting app. It's one of those apps that you play a recorded song and it'll tell you what the song is. They've added functionality to discover music that other Shazam users are listening to. There's a new Shazam 2.00 update, and they've added a tag stream feature. So it just basically brings up just still images of here are recent songs that have been tagged on Shazam. Basically, we had Aaron from SoundHound on the other week. Aaron Master, a developer from SoundHound. So they had him on, and he was talking about how SoundHound basically already has this feature. There's a ticker at the bottom of the screen that talks about what all of the sort of new and exciting songs that people have been tagging on SoundHound. So now Shazam has added essentially the same feature, and it's actually not even as robust. So are they just hopelessly behind SoundHound at this point? What do you think? I mean, can they catch up? And SoundHound obviously has this huge advantage, which is you can sing the song into the SoundHound app and it'll tell you, or you can even just hum, whereas Shazam, you have to play the recorded version. Is this a losing battle for Shazam? I mean, what do you think?
I think it's a losing battle if they continue to just try and play catch-up. I think they have to try and innovate in a different area, whether that be, building the library more and more and more, making it more precise, making it able to do it much quicker, which SoundHound has already sort of taken leap and bounds, as they sort of showed us earlier. Within 3 seconds you can get a result. I think they need to innovate in a different area. The social media, in terms of the social media and being able to connect it to different people and see what they're doing, I think SoundHound is so far ahead that it really seemed like Shazam was sort of resting on their laurels. They got all that really early press because they were first to market. Steve Jobs, they were featured in the Apple commercials. I think Steve Jobs mentioned them in a keynote. I think that's caused them to sort of rest on their laurels. Oh, we're the leader, and then SoundHound has really caught up. And I would love to know numbers on usage, but yeah,
nobody
that's
has
hard
those.
to get.
So we can actually look at my screen here, and I know in the chat room everybody's like, talk about the patch that went up today, which I had in the news, but I thought it was kind of boring, so I wasn't going to bring it up. But everybody so we'll talk about the 3.2.1 update that went live today. I've got some info on it, but I do want to show off Shazam's new feature. So you hit this button here, and it'll bring up. I know our Wi-Fi's a little bit slow here in the studio, but here we go. So this is literally all it is. It like this little animation, and you could see, Shakira,
Eminem,
Charisse is here, and Eminem. So this is what people are tagging. I presume it's relatively in real time. Something called "sexy bitch." So I guess this would be an okay to discover new music, but you really can't find out anything about the music except what it is. You can tag it yourself, but that's about all you can do. So, a little bit of a light, silly feature. I don't know if that's really ever going to add up to much. What about you, Eric? Do you use Shazam or SoundHound? What do you think?
Well, I actually don't use either of those services. I rely on my archive of musical knowledge. I just recognize songs when I hear them.
Oh, my. So never mind, then. This guy, do you have are you a huge music fan? Do you have an encyclopedic knowledge?
I wouldn't say encyclopedic, but we spend a lot of time listening to music at work and put a lot of focus into music. And
could I hum something to you and you could tell me what it is?
I mean, someone plays a random song to me. I'm not really all that interested in listening to it, but yeah, TiCloud.
Especially if you're humming.
That's true of all of these music discovery. It's like, well, it has to be somehow filtered for my taste. Like, I don't like Carrie Hilson. I'm not going to enjoy that. Anyway.
Really?
I don't. That Knock You Down song annoys me. Anyway, a good point. I'm going to have to talk about the patch that went up today, because everybody in the chat room is like, tell us what the patch does. And Willie V. Wade adds that it has laser beams that come out of a friggin' 35mm jack.
Lies.
Frickin' laser beams out of their heads. I will read off what it does. Fixes a few sort of nagging problems, most notably the Wi-Fi connectivity issue that a lot of iPad users were having. So that it's mainly a patch to deal with that. So it's better Wi-Fi connectivity. It also adds Microsoft's Bing as an option for Safari. So when you're in Safari, the default is Google, but now you can actually also automatically search Bing without going to Bing.com, which is kind of cool if you're a big Bing Microsoft fan. I know I really do like Bing's visual search, I think, is a lot better than Google's. That's their real, to me, the huge value add that Bing has. I also like their maps and other stuff, but the iPad maps are great that already exist in there.
Steve Ballmer's excited.
Steve Ballmer's very excited about their maps, and I do on the web. I actually do think the Bing maps are a pretty good deal better. Just a list of some of the other stuff. There was a glitch that prevented copy and pasting of a single-page PDF attachment. That's now been fixed.
Thank God.
There was a bug that caused video playback to freeze. That's now been fixed. They fixed the iPad dock connector to VGA. Apparently that was glitchy for some people. I never had that problem actually, but apparently other people did, and that is now fixed. And as I said, the improved Wi-Fi connectivity. So that's really it. You can download it. It's available now in the. If you go to update your iPad software, it'll be there. Mainly fixing nagging sort of issues, problems. Was there anything on that list, Jacob, that was a big concern to you that you're glad to see fixed?
I got the Wi-Fi issue once. Haven't really gotten it since. I think it's much more they wanted to pair it with the 401 release in iPhone land because of the press conference tomorrow.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think that's of the news that the updates came out. It's more pressing for the iPhone concerns. iPad land.
I do know weak Wi-Fi signals have been. I haven't gotten really much of a chance to test out whether it's a lot better now because I only downloaded this very recently. But I noticed at home here I don't really have a problem because we have 3 different Wi-Fi signals here in the office. So if I just switch over, it always works. But at home I do where I have one Wi-Fi and it's not as powerful as it is here. I would every once in a while get I try to download an app and it would stick or it wouldn't be able to get through. Hopefully that'll work better now. That's always nice.
Hooray.
Aaron, anything exciting in there that you're you a huge Bing fan?
I never actually used Bing. I feel very anti-technology all of a sudden. All these magical things you're describing.
Shazam and Bing? I don't know. It sounds like Oz characters or something. The Wizard of, not the prison. Although maybe, I don't know. Adabisi and Bing.
I'm not going to comment.
It's a little obscure. Anyway, yeah, I mean, I honestly, I was hesitant to bring it up, and in the chat room they've been like, you got to talk about the iPad update that went live today. So
and you're a man of the people.
I'm here to give. I'm here to please. So there we go. Okay, let's move on. That was the news. I definitely want to talk to Aaron. He designed a really cool game. I'm going to show it off here.
And I'm going to play while you do that.
Are you going to play the game live on the air? All right, please do. I'll play it as well. I do want to show it off. It is, as I said, right now, if you go to the App Store, this is the #1 paid app. My background's Inception. We're seeing it tomorrow. So here it is, Osmos HD. So we'll load that up. So can you tell us, Aaron, while I'm sort of playing a little bit of it here, how this app kind of came about? I mean, here's the thing I'm most curious to ask you is, how do you pitch a game like this? It seems so conceptual, and it's really difficult to describe to people who have not actually played it already. Once you play it, it gets sort of, oh, okay, I get it now. But before you've played it, it's like, how would I even tell somebody what my idea for the app was?
Well, you know, that's the joy of the App Store. You don't have to pitch it to anyone. You just have to take a chance and stop earning a paycheck and just build the thing and hope it's well received. So yeah, this entire project was funded on volunteer hours, so we're very excited that it's doing well.
Yeah, definitely.
It's you know, it's really, the game is very fun to play because it has tension. So to move your player about, you can see every time you tap, you're spitting out a bit of your mass, and that makes you smaller. And it's just like being in space. You throw an object in one direction, you move in the other direction.
Right, yeah.
And of course, the goal of the game is to get as big as possible. And to do that, you eat other smaller things. And so every time you move, you're getting a little smaller, but you need to go hunt down other creatures to eat them. So there's this definite tension between trying to move as quickly as possible and get to your target, and relaxing and just drifting along and not wasting all your resources. And this is what makes the game quite fun to play. Yeah,
there's actually, I mean, it's a lot of fun, and it's very addicting. I mean, once you start it, and it takes a level or two to kind of get the hang of what you're doing, and then once you do it, you find yourself kind of drifting back to it, but it also requires a lot of patience, which is interesting. I don't know how many games there are out there that, like, as you can see, that's why Jacob's not doing that well, because he's trying to, like, tap, 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 and you can see when I do that, when I try to go too fast, it actually makes me much smaller. I actually lose by trying to go too quickly. So really, it requires you to be very deliberate and try to use as few moves as possible to actually achieve your goals. So that's kind of interesting and very different, I think, from a lot of the other games that are in the store.
Something we definitely found a lot while we were playtesting. People were so eager to touch the screen. And I mean, I love the iPad, and yeah, you want to touch it. That's what it's all about. But we really had to encourage people to just relax and sit back and see how the game's going, try not to rush things. And, you know, we try and create a whole mood where relaxation is possible. The music's nice and chilled out and slow tempo. Yeah. The visuals are all flowy and glowy and lots of little blips and blobs floating about. There's no rush.
I did want to ask you about the music, because the music, and I'll try to play a little softly while we're here, but you can hear the music. It's very, like, kind of laid back, very chill kind of atmosphere. Like, how did you have this kind of music playing while you were designing it? I mean, did you know right away what kind of music you were going to pair it with? Was there thought about what would work well in the background?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, so this game started by my coworker Eddie. He was the main man behind the game. He started this game 4 years ago.
Oh,
it's
my
been in
gosh.
development a long time. And back at the start, it was actually supposed to be a music game. The whole point of the game was to generate a new song by virtue of the way you play. And there's still a little bit of it in here if you get to the warped chaos levels. As you interact with various creatures on the screen, the music changes and different tracks mix in and out. So definitely music was thought about right from the start.
That's interesting. So he's been designing this for 4 years? What was it supposed to be before it was an iPad game?
Well, it did originally launch on the PC, and as I say, it took my friend Eddie as a work after work project about 3 years to get it there. He had to help with some friends in later years. I was a bit of a jerk, and I jumped in just as it was completed. I jumped in the beta test of the PC version, and I thought, wow, this game's amazing. I need to latch on to this success. So
I need to ride these coattails.
Oh, I know. I was like, oh, I've got genius friends. I should ride their success. So I pitched to Eddie. I was like, you know, this game would be perfect for the iPhone, because back then there was no iPad.
Right.
And about midway through the iPhone development, Apple announced the iPad, and it was just magic. We're like, oh, this is definitely the device where this game's going to shine. nice big screen, direct interaction, really crisp visuals, good music too.
It's so well suited. I think like most people, I assumed that it was meant for the iPad kind of all along because it seems so sort of naturally. So what were the challenges of it was designed, I'm presuming for a PC, so it was designed to be like you're clicking a mouse around to sort of control it. Like what were the challenges of adapting that for the iPad's pretty, unique way of doing things, I guess you would say?
Yeah, in many ways, developing for Apple products is really easy. They use a lot of standards, which makes it nice to go. The biggest challenge I think all iPhone developers and all iPad developers are finding is what's a good control screen? You see a lot of games do this really goofy where they have a graphic of a joystick and you got to sort of push the joystick around, but then there's no tactile feedback, so of course your finger inevitably slips off. And
right.
I mean, in many ways, we were extremely lucky that the touchscreen was a natural fit for the game Osmos. And then we just tried to stick to conventions to make sure everyone could get to know it really easily. Pinch zooming, that's a no-brainer. I mean, that's how we zoom in Safari and throughout the iPad world.
Right.
The time warping was really fun, the flick left and right. And, here we can go if you don't have the patience to move your remote slowly, well, you can just speed up time. So he's moving faster without you having to accelerate your player anymore. And certainly if you get stuck in the later levels, slowing down times, you've got more time to react is a nice way to take the pressure off.
Yeah, that's
and of course,
actually...
if you're finding the game too easy, just flick time up and try and beat it all again at twice the speed. Let's see how you do.
It's a pretty clever way of getting around the sort of like easy, hard mode, and you never really know exactly how a game is calibrating. Like, well, what's hard? Like, I could play medium or hard on some games, but then I try it on like Modern Warfare, and it's like immediately get shot in the head without having to. So this one, you really can modulate your own, how fast or slow or how hard you want to, how challenging you want to make the game. So how would you categorize it? I mean, if you had to put this in a category and say it's this kind of game, I've seen it referred to as a Zen game, which I'm not exactly sure I understand what that means. Like, is it a puzzle game? I mean, what would you think of if you were sort of making this new to say like it's this kind? We're working on this kind of game.
We ourselves, we thought of it as a classic arcade game. Something like Joust or Asteroids. There's a lot of those really basic, old school arcade game play elements in there. Obviously with much shinier graphics and music for the modern world. But it's a game I think we just tried to make sure it was really enjoyable. There's a lot of violent video games out there in the mainstream, and lots of people aren't interested in shooting things in their free time. We wanted a game that you could relax to and would reduce your stress, not increase it. So I think that's where the Zen idea comes about, that you can definitely take your time, slow down, enjoy the game of Osmos without, heck, you're barely moving your finger over there. Maybe you're not trying to win, but...
I'm hosting a show while I play it. That's how I'm actually paying attention, like, oh, crap, I got to avoid this big sun thing here. It's going to swallow me. It actually, it relies a lot. I would think there's almost an we talked about educational games on the show not long ago. I feel like there's almost an educational aspect to this. Like, you could actually kind of teach kids about thermodynamics this way in terms of, well, each action having that's not thermodynamics, that's just physics, but
yeah.
You could actually teach kids about Newtonian physics using this, in some way. Yeah, they're making fun of me in the chat room now for not knowing what thermodynamics is. Newtonian physics, there you go.
In fact, the game, the PC version, the original release, we made it way too hard. It was mind-bogglingly hard. This version on the iPad is far easier, and there was a funny late level in the games where you had to go collect just 8 blobs that were in different orbits around a central sun. Mm-hmm. And I tried to beat this level about, 50 times and couldn't do it. So finally, seeing as I knew Eddie and he was my friend, I asked him how it was done. And he said, you just got to do a Holtzman transfer to switch between orbits. So clearly, if you wanted to use it as a tool to learn about spacecraft dynamics and orbital mechanics, you could. But in the end, it turns out people don't want to learn about spacecraft mechanics in their free time.
Not at all.
So we just decided to make it easier and make it more enjoyable for most people.
Yeah, I don't even want to know what thermodynamics means, apparently. I'm just saying words. So it climbed, it's been out only a few weeks, right? And it already climbed to the top of the paid app charts. Any idea how that happened? Was it just word of mouth? Did you guys have a big marketing push?
We were so stunned. So the very first day we released it, it went to #1, and I don't know, I nearly fell over. I had no idea how that happened.
Really?
I really have no idea how that
Wow.
happened. We released a video showing some playtest, and Boing Boing picked it up and showed it, and of course, that was the highlight of my life. Boing Boing shows all the cool things on the web, and finally my product was on it, so that was about as good as life gets. And I guess a lot of people saw that video, and I don't know.
That's incredible. I had assumed you guys did something or got featured by Apple, or Steve Jobs was playing it on a train and somebody took a picture and Miyazaki was like, stop masturbating or something like that. I just assumed.
Apple named it App of the Week, so I should give credit to Apple.
Okay,
so,
well, there you go.
Yeah, that was the banner was up there, App of the Week.
That probably helped, but...
In the U.S. store, at the very least.
But yeah, I mean, it's just, you know, I was saying, I think I said to you in email when I was first playing around with it and inviting you guys on the show that it is one of those apps that you can kind of show people as like, look at the cool kind of games that you could play on your iPad, and it's very iPad, you know, I mean, apparently it was a PC game, but it feels very kind of unique to the iPad and like a different kind of game. It's not like a racing game or fighting game or something you would see on like an Xbox. So, I mean, that might have something to do with it too. People like downloading things that you can show your neighbor, like, hey, check this out. Isn't this cool on my iPad? So I guess that might be, that's how I always do it.
Very serious voice.
Yes, very serious voice. So I guess that might be. So do you guys have plans to update, innovate the game? I know it just came out, so I don't want to rush you, but are there plans to like take Osmos to the next level, more levels? You're going to do a lot of updates?
Wow, you see, I'm just coming off a really hard year of work. Well, there's going to be an iPhone
Get on
version.
it. I'm already bored. Let's go.
There's an iPhone version that's going to be out August 5th, so that's coming out soon. We're thinking about multiplayer, at least in the head-to-head Bluetooth fashion. We've sort of got some plans about that. To be honest, we're kind of eager to work on a new game. It's been a long time we've been working on Osmos now, and I don't know, I hope it shows there's maybe a lot of polish in there. About 6 months after I thought it was done, Eddie said, oh no, there's this bug and this bug. I was like, those aren't bugs, no one will notice. And, we'd spend a whole day getting rid of just one tiny little lurch, and, you think, oh, I spent all day with that little improvement? Surely, that's crazy. But you do that a dozen times, and all of a sudden the game starts to look really nice. So I was glad to work for Psychotic Perfectionist. That was really great.
Hey, #1 app. He was right in some way. I don't mean to defend your demanding, horrible boss, but it works really well. So were you just kind of curious? Were you like interested in being an app developer or game designer by trade? Is that what you were doing before you got into Osmos, or did you kind of get caught up in all this?
I definitely got caught up in it all. I was actually working for BC Cancer as a bioinformatician analyzing flow cytometry data. So about as far away from games as you can get.
Equally fun, though. I mean, sounds like a blast. So that's interesting. You kind of just figured this out as you went along because it was an interesting project?
Well, funnily enough, so Eddie and Dave, two were the main guys at Hemisphere Games. They lived together back in 2002 with another roommate, Hendrik Kook, who makes the great Color Splash app. So funnily enough, they all lived together, and I met Hendrik at a folk festival listening to some music, and he showed me his app and how great it was doing on the App Store, and I thought, wow, this is amazing. I need to get in on this. So there it was. Yeah, amazingly, 1 year ago, I had never programmed for an iPhone or an iPad, just like most people in the world, and it's pretty quick to pick up, and yeah, that's where I am.
Wow. Before I let Aaron go, any thoughts, questions about Osmos, where it's going?
No, I'm good.
No.
I was going to maybe ask about Objective-C again, but I've decided.
Lay off Objective-C.
Yeah, I'll be good. No, I'm Defender, but I'll be good.
Okay.
Good.
Objective-C was my favorite thing about programming for the iPad, so I'm a fan.
Thank you.
Yeah,
that's all I
Xcode
needed
was
to
the
hear.
worst thing about programming for the iPad.
In the chat room, and I was trying to defend it.
We had some Objective-C chat room haters last week, so Jacob was defending it, and there you go.
There.
So there, non-Apple types. Well, Aaron, thank you so much for coming by the show. I really appreciate it. Everybody should go check out Osmos. It's not hard to find. Just go to the App Store and click on charts. And it's the #1 thing on there. So go check it out. Lots of fun. Definitely a good value, too. And Aaron, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate it. All right, so let's move on to my favorite segment, maybe yours as well, Jacob, I don't know.
Always.
Definitely the segment I think we have the best introductory material for. So let's jump into it right now. It is a little segment we call Planet of the Apps.
You maniacs! Damn you! God damn you all to hell!
Don't download it, Mon. You might not like how it runs.
So they're asking in the chat room how much Osmos was, because this is a good value, $5. And I've already probably gotten $5 out of it in terms of time I'm playing. But as we'll see, we're discussing card games today in Planet of the Apps. A lot of these cost the same amount.
Let's say Osmos goes a little farther.
And not such amazing value. Not such amazing value for your money. I will go ahead and say that. So I'm going to talk about a few. The first one I'm going to talk about is called Heads Up Hold'em HD. It is free, but it has a $5 upgrade that you. A lot of people in the App Store actually were complaining they were tricked into buying the upgrade. I knew what I was getting. I was enjoying the free version, but you can try it out for free. And it is a very limited game in that it is just Texas Hold'em heads up. So you're only ever playing against one other person. The betting is very straightforward. You're just sort of doing this, and then it's no limit, so you can decide to go all in or raise your bet like this. Very simple, very straightforward, very intuitive. I have a pair of 10s. So we'll see how I do here, and there I won the pot. It's really just that, and then the interesting part comes, and this is what you pay for when you get the upgrade. You get a lot of different opponents, and they all have different playing styles. So some of them, it's not super sophisticated AI, but it's sophisticated enough because there's so many different players. So some of them are incredibly loose, some of them play incredibly tight. One thing I don't really like that they obviously got a lot of complaints about, when I originally downloaded it, some of these players, they would make it more challenging by making the people go slower. So you would bet, and then they would think about it for a minute, and then they would bet. And it was the world's most frustrating, obnoxious thing, because you're literally sitting there waiting for the computer to decide what it wants to do, which is not fun, and probably the most annoying part of poker when you're sitting there. This is why people who play poker live at the World Series always see they have earbuds in, because it's boring when you're waiting for everybody else to sort of think about it. But just generally, that's not great. They've actually fixed that in the new version. They sped them up, so obviously other people than me were annoyed by it. And it actually, I found it pretty helpful in making me a slightly more thoughtful poker player, just because you get to play against a lot of different kinds of players, and so you get used to what that means. So if somebody's playing, very, very conservatively, you kind of get strategies for how to get around that as you play it longer. So for people who actually are serious about playing a lot of Hold'em and find themselves in confusing heads-up situations, I actually think that this might be a pretty good game. I can't say I recommend $4.99 to buy the upgrade. I don't think go get Osmos. I think that's a better value. But it is fun, and for the free version, if you're a poker fan, I think you could probably do a lot worse.
Okay. So mine first will be Video Pokers for iPad, which
Video
is...
Pokers?
Pokers.
That's odd.
I did not name the app.
It sounds like people are playing poker and playing videos and then poking you.
Well, that might be what happened.
Long way around for that joke. I apologize.
It is. You tried. You got there. 3 different versions of video poker, like you would play in a casino if you were of age.
Do you have to be of age to download the app?
No.
Yeah.
And it works exactly like it. Really well done. Very well polished. I'm getting glare. I apologize for that. And works exactly like you would expect. You can do up to 100 lines, which is, to me, crazy, unnecessary.
Yeah, seems like that would make it hard to concentrate.
I just won $28.
Look at you.
Look at that. So there's 3 different. There's Joker's Wild, which is the one most people are used to. There's Deuce's Wild, and one that I'm forgetting. Joker's Wild.
Yes.
Really well done. The illustration's done very well. There's some music in the background. The interface is slick. You get what you get. I think it was, I could be wrong, $2.99, I believe. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure if it's worth that. I'm not a huge video poker fan, but if you are and you want to practice before you go to Vegas, I recommend it.
Yeah. So the next one I looked at, I was debating whether to bring this up on a card game one, but it is a card game. It's just not a traditional card game. Was Uno. There's actually an Uno game in the App Store. It costs $5, $4.99, another one. If you are a huge Uno fan, I think this is probably a pretty good deal for you. I mean, it really is exactly what you'd expect from an Uno game. I hadn't played Uno in years, and picking it up again, I was reminded of it's nothing against the app. It's just Uno is kind of an annoying game. Like there's just something. It's very complicated. The rules. There's a lot of rules. There's a lot of different kinds of cards, and it's just I don't know if it's as fun as it should be to make up for how complex it is and how long it takes to sort of master it and figure it out. I just I don't know, it felt like really convoluted to me. I really don't have many complaints about the app itself. I mean, it really does faithfully, as you can see, recreate the game of Uno. My one fault with it is, as you can see here, I click to open up my card so I can pick which card, but this is really clunky. You have to hit the card, and then you have to sort of drag it, and it really moves slow, and you can see it's super choppy to drag the card out there. So, you know, that's a little bit clunky. I mean, not enough to really ruin the game for you. You figure it out in a few minutes, but it's not ideal. It's certainly they could have done a better job, and I'm betting there will be a patch, because it's a pretty new app. I'm betting there will be a patch at some point that makes the controls a little bit less clunky and at least makes it smoother. That's actually one thing that all of these games have in common is it's really tough to figure out the smoothness of the, like, pushing your cards into the table action with just a flick. A lot of these games seem to be a little clunky about that. So that's something they probably will work on in the future. But really no knock against this if you love Uno. I just was surprised to find that I no longer love Uno. And I used to think it was fun as a kid, and now I think, like, really, I got another, it's going the opposite way now, and it's really just not that exciting to me. So I don't know if I'd spend $5 for it.
Perhaps a Hungry Hungry Hippos app.
Oh my God, if somebody came out with a Hungry Hungry Hippos app, how would you do yeah, that doesn't really seem possible.
Miyazaki would be
very... like, disgusting. This is revolting. How dare you would depict hippos in this way? Anyway.
Yeah. So the next is Casino Poker, which to me was a little misleading because I go into casino and play real poker, and this is what tabletop poker, where it plays much more like blackjack than actual poker. Oh yeah, pocket pair. And you can decide to raise or fold, which basically means give up the $100 or actually make it at least $300, and then look, I won, hooray, hooray. And there's 3 different kinds. There's Caribbean poker, there's standard Hold'em poker, and like last time, forgetting what the third one is, Poker 3, which I have no idea. I played around with it, still haven't figured it out.
Yeah, that's a hard three-card poker is always it's always weird to me.
So it works like that, where you get $5,000 to start out with, and you're trying to make more money like you would at a casino.
Yeah.
So if you like these games, it's well done. A dealer talks to you, which is a little creepy. Really good jazz in the background, which I found classy. If you can hear it, I don't know if you can, but I know you can.
I know if they can.
Puts me in a mood. It's good. Good app, $3.99. Much like Video Poker, I found out, made from the same people. Both are $3.99. Not sure if it's worth that because it's very one-dimensional. You get 3 varieties of a particular, not most exciting game of poker. But if it's your thing, they're well presented.
Yeah. So then the next one I'm going to show is called Real Solitaire. This one, you know, it's solitaire, but there's so many different varieties of solitaire. And this one it's really kind of limited. I do like, you can see that I have made the background, you can pick any photo from your library and make that the background, which is kind of nice. So, you know, it makes it look pretty, and you can put whatever image you want back there, which is, it takes a little while to actually load it in. But other than that, I mean, this is very strictly like basic solitaire rules. There's not a lot that's different about it. And they only have this one kind of solitaire. I mean, you could change the scoring from traditional scoring to Vegas scoring. And you can decide that you'll either flip 1 card at a time or 3. One card at a time, it's almost cheating. I mean, I don't even see how you could possibly lose a game of solitaire. You can undo as well. There's an undo button. So between undo and flipping 1 card at a time, isn't it pretty much automatic that you'll win every time? So you can also do 3, but for that little amount of variation, I was kind of surprised. It cost $2. And if you really want a solitaire game, it's a good solitaire game. It's almost identical to the old PC one that you would get automatically on your Windows machine.
And spend all your working hours.
Yeah, I
on-
mean, so, compared to that, it's good. It doesn't use anything about the iPad specifically. It's really just, a port of a game of Solitaire, and you can make a background. The PC one, they're asking in the chat, is it better? Like, no, it's not better. I mean, it's Solitaire. Like this one, you drag the cards. This one is a little cleaner. The cards themselves are a little bigger. It's prettier, and you can pick your own background. But as far as like a significant jump in quality over the free one that you would have gotten 10 years ago on your PC,
No.
not really. It's just an iPad version.
Now, do the cards shuffle up and down when you win?
They do. They do that little like cascade effect where they zigzag in cascades. It's not as slow. The PC one was like you had to wait for every individual card, and by the time it was over, you really didn't feel a sense of victory.
And then you went back to work.
This one has a cool little animation when you win, but it really is just a $2 port of Solitaire.
So my next one is Card Chart Collection, and this was 99 cents, and I feel it's worth the price because you get a lot of different games.
Yeah, so look at that. I mean, there's so much more variation in that than any other app that I bought.
And there are a few. It's only one player as far as I know. If there is multiplayer, I haven't figured it out. But I have no friends, so how would I be able to test that? So there's a lot of games. The AI can vary. There is a Hold'em, which is limit, I think 1530. AI on that was less than par. One of the opponents always wants to raise, no matter what they have. The rest always like to fold. Not much variation there. That said, while playing Hearts, I was trying to shoot the moon. It was doing a very good job, and one of the opponents was smart enough to hold on to an Ace of Hearts. So Hearts beat me well there. I was kicking its arse in a speed, but it actually beat me just a little bit ago. But the variety of games is good. It's not the most intuitive controls in the app, but you get sort of used to these really great apps that have great UI and it's well thought out.
Yeah.
And this less or so, but the gameplay works fine. It's never been glitchy to me. A lot of games, and for 99 cents, it's really a good time waster.
Yeah. The last one I'll talk about, and actually I'm going to wrap this up with a little with a little twist at the end, I guess. But for now, let's take a look at Astroware Casino. It's this one right here. Man, I can't wait to see Inception. Every time I see that background, it's like, oh crap, tomorrow. So this one, first of all, clunky. I hate apps that force you to have one perspective. It's like, it's the iPad. One of the most basic things about the iPad is that I can turn it however I want. You can't force me to hold it in one dimension. It just takes away pretty much the entire point of having an iPad.
Certain games I can understand where it just clearly is a landscape game, and there's no way around it. But a game like a casino game.
Like a casino game, why can't I tilt this on its side? Anyway, you can see there's a bunch of different games. Most of them, however, are completely pointless. Like, here's Derby, which is literally like bet on a horse race. And you pick your horse, and you place your bet, and there's only like, you could bet $1 or $5, and then if I unlock more things, I can unlock 25 and 100. And then I literally just watch this race, and it's like photo finish, and then I win or I lose, and it's like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, that's the entire game. It's not even a game. It's a little animation that they run over and over. So there are cards in it. Here's the Texas Hold'em, but you would definitely be better off, I think, buying probably any other card game that we discussed on the show. Because look at this. I mean, this really does look like it's on a PC like 15 years ago. I mean, I could give this to my grandpa, and he would be right at home with his Windows 97 machine.
97?
Yeah, well, maybe 95. 95, 97, maybe 98.
I would, yeah. Okay.
Anyway, I think it's 97, honestly, that my grandfather says. But, look, I mean, the font is super small. The AI is terrible. I mean, and people go all in with you every single hand. Somebody pushes all in. And then they're just replaced by another player, too, so you don't even get the thrill of, like, kicking somebody off the table. There's a couple other card games on here, but they're all exactly like this one. There's also video poker, but it's not even as good as the video poker you were showing. You basically deal, and I don't want to hang on to any of those, and then you deal again. Oh, I lost, and now I'm running out of money. How much fun. So, yeah, I mean, really, really bad. It's cheap. It's only $1. But I still can't bring myself to recommend it. So, do you have any more games?
The one thing I wanted to give a quick shout out to, and I won't even necessarily show it because you already showed Solitaire. It's a Solitaire game. It's from Ambrosia, which made one of my old favorite Mac 9 games, Escape Velocity.
Not to mention a terrific salad.
Yes. Not so much. Not so much the Ambrosia salad. Not a fan. Mondo Solitaire, it's like, I actually can bring it up
Yeah, well,
real quick.
what the heck?
Here's me playing a version of Klondike, but if we go to Change Game, there is way too many games of Solitaire that I had no idea were actually a thing. You can control basically every element, the background of the cards, the front face of the cards, the background. It has to be more than 60 games, and within the games, there's different variations. There's 12 versions of Klondike, 4 versions of Free Cell. So lots and lots of choice. So if you are bored and a fan of Solitaire, I think Solitaire City has about as many games. From what I was able to, I didn't download Solitaire City, but what I saw from the screenshots, Mono Solitaire looked better, looked crisper, and I'm a fan of the Ambrosia software, so I thought I'd give that a shout out.
Speaking of being a fan, before I announce my twist to this whole discussion, I do want to take a time out to talk about Gazelle.com.
You are a fan.
I am a fan of Gazelle.com. Who wouldn't love Gazelle.com? Basically, you have a lot, if you're watching the show, you probably have a lot of old gadgets. You have a lot of old electronics sitting around your house. You're not using them anymore. They're just taking up space. Why not get those electronics to someone else who's going to really enjoy them, use and enjoy them, and why not make a little bit of money for yourself on the side while you're doing it? That's the magic of Gazelle.com. They call it re-commerce. I just call it a good idea. Basically, you trade in any of your old electronics that are sitting around that you're not using anymore. You don't even have to enter any information. You just enter in whatever the thing is that you're going to get rid of. Like, let's say I've got an old Amazon Kindle, and I'm not using my old Kindle anymore because now I've got an iPad, right? What do I need it for? So you just look up the Kindle. It'll give you every option that they're trading in. Even if they don't list it, you can still suggest it and say you want some money for it and see what they'll say. So you can look up the Kindle here. I can get a good price. I can price it before I even go any further. So I don't have to give them any information. I don't have to sign up. I can just go and I can tell them what electronics I've got, and they'll tell me what they're going to pay. You enter a little bit of basic information like, yes, it powers on successfully. It doesn't have any water damage. It's in good condition. And I've got all this stuff. I kept all of my original stuff. And you can see below even they've got a chart for you. Well, they're only paying me $4 for the old school Kindle. So you can see the chart below of how much they're paying. I know an iPhone 3G, they'll still give you like $90, $100. So it differs depending on the price. Sometimes they don't even want to pay. There's not even any buyers for it, and they'll just recycle it for you. Shipping's free through FedEx and the Postal Service. And if they really want the item, they'll even send you a box to pack it in and ship it out. Couldn't be easier. It takes 2 seconds to go and do the whole thing. And it's much better than having it just sit around your house. And eBay, I mean, forget about eBay. You're waiting. You have to decide, do I want to sell it now? Do I want to leave the auction open? And then you got to deal with some schmo on the other end who's like, well, now I don't know if I want it, and all the shipping and nonsense of that. It's way easier. Just go to Gazelle. They'll give you a good price if they can sell the thing. Otherwise, they'll just help you recycle it and dump it for you. Re-commerce. It's a brilliant idea, and it saves the earth. It's good for your wallet. You don't have all these electronics clogging up your desk drawers in your closet or filling up some landfill somewhere, taking up space. Much easier to just go to Gazelle. They'll give you a great price. ATL Chris in the chat room says Gazelle gave me $126 for my 2-year-old iPhone 3G. I love them. I couldn't have made the point any better myself. That's exactly right. Stuff you wouldn't even think that it still has a lot of value, but it does have value. Somebody out there really wants it, and so it's a great system, and I really recommend it. Gazelle.com, and if you want to go on Twitter and thank them, @Gazelle_com, say I'm watching This Week in iPad. I love Gazelle. Checking it out now. We would really appreciate it. We love Gazelle. It's a great sponsor. We don't bring sponsors on these shows that we don't believe in. I think that's something all of This Week in shows, and this one included. If we accept the sponsorship, if we talk about them on the air, we're putting our reputation on the line, and we know that. We want you guys to trust us as people who know what they're talking about, and that's why we wanted to work with a great company like Gazelle. So really can't say enough about them. The one other thing I was going to say about going back to the game apps and the card games is the best one I found, the one that I enjoy the most that I actually play, is actually an iPhone app that I just play on the iPad. That's the big twist I was referencing. It's called World Series of Poker Hold'em.
You are a disappointing twister, my friend.
Can you believe it? Can you believe it? Jason, Jesus Christ, Lon, we get it. You love Gazelle. Hey, it's called being a professional. It's called being a spokesperson. Jason knows better than anyone. DNA mail, everyone loves DNA mail. I feel the same way about Gazelle, all right? Bear with me. So here we go. I'm just trying to load it up here. World Series of Poker. It's got great graphics. It's fun. You can play in all these different locations. And the UI is really intuitive. It actually works really well. You know, and you could just tap to go faster. And as I was saying about the AI, it's actually a lot of different players, but you'll see the same faces start to pop up at your table, and you get to know how they react. Like, oh, this guy's super conservative. This guy's super loose. This guy, you know, is going to just go in on anything. This guy's going to try to fake me out. You can actually work it in. Where it'll tell you, like, this person has a tell and it's got a little logo. I turn that off because I feel like that's kind of cheating. But the game will actually work that in where you can actually see, you know, if people have tells or the game doesn't know, like maybe they've got what they look. And yeah, I know it paired me with this avatar that looks really angry and bald, almost like Jason Statham or something. So obviously it got a sense for my personality. So, you know, I'll call what the hell. We'll play this hand. And there we go. So I have absolutely nothing. And you know,
gut shot.
Yeah,
raise,
you raise. We'll go all in. There we go. We're all in.
Nine's coming. Nine's coming.
No. Okay, so I lose. So there you go. I busted out. I'll start over, and you can play, and actually it keeps a bankroll, so if you run out of money, you can sort of re-up, or you could just start over with your original. So it's got a little bit of depth to it. I really like the different locations and the way they sort of work it out with that, and all the different players, and the AI is pretty sophisticated, and it just looks better. I mean, amazingly, on iPhone app, on the iPad, it looks better than any of the native iPad apps that I played. So, World Series of Poker, Texas Hold'em, it's called. I do recommend it. You can get it for your iPad. It's from the iPhone, so you can get it for your iPhone as well. Probably the best card game app I played.
Good to hear.
Yeah, so I think that does it for our show today. One more time, I know Jason is not crazy about it, but one more time, thank you to all of our sponsors, Wellala, the makers of Print Magic HD, and Gazelle.com, the makers of Gazelle.com, a great service. Stay tuned, because right after this, if you're watching this live, we've got 2 more great shows coming up. This Week in Video Games starts in about 20 minutes, because we ran a little long. And then This Week in Music starts at 8 p.m. Pacific time. Please do, as Jason said, thank our sponsors on Twitter, at Ustream, at Gazelle_.com, at Wellala_Inc. We'd really appreciate it. Next time, we're going to talk about note-taking apps. So if you have any thoughts, Lon at This Weekend, or hit me up on the Twitters, at Lon's.
Twitterverse.
Or at TWIIP. At TWIIP? Yes. And that will, or no, at TWI iPad. At TWI iPad, if you have any note-taking apps that you want to recommend to us. Thanks to everybody for watching, and we will see you next time. Oh, thanks to Aaron Barsky, the designer of Osmos. A great game. Go check it out. And we will see you next time on This Week in iPad.